Okay, let's get going. Welcome to Videos for Wineries. This is a webinar series from Bottlebooks. This webinar is about wineries doing videos, what's effective, what has worked in the past, what might work in the future, what people are doing now, what people are doing in the lockdown, which is also quite interesting that we're all experiencing right now. We are very lucky to have two great panelists. One is Patrick Yoner. Patrick Yoner has been a friend of Bottlebooks for many years, and it runs a medium-sized family winery in Germany near the French border, and also has a sister winery in New Zealand. And for many years, Patrick is I would almost call him a futurologist. He's always experimenting with different things and different technologies, and one of those happens to be videos. I'm always on Facebook seeing his videos pop up at a harvest, and he's always doing different things and in different ways. So I thought it'd be very interesting to have him join us today. And also joining us, luckily, is Brandon Lee. Brandon works for the Brandon, maybe you can Pour Winery Video. Sorry, Brandon, what's the name of your company?
Pour Agency.
Pour Agency.
Yep.
And you're sort of a full service video production agency based in California. And you're doing videos for wineries, including, I think you were saying, a video shoot that's coming up even this Thursday.
Yep, Wednesday and Thursday. Yeah, we'll be in Napa and St. Helena while practicing social distancing, obviously.
Right. Which is, I guess, one of the topics that we will get to. Great. So thank you all for joining us. If you want to ask any questions, there's a Q&A button at the bottom, and we'll get going. So I just wanted to start off talking about maybe some of the types of videos that wineries do. And maybe Patrick, I'll start with you. What kind of videos have you done in the past? I've seen some harvest videos from you. I've seen different, I don't know if I've seen a 3D video. I've certainly seen 3D photos from you. What are the types of videos that you've experimented with in the past?
Well, the main issue is, of course, I need to experiment a lot, because nothing is worse than actually always repeating yourself. And that's the biggest issue I actually have, because the season is sort of the same every year. But for me, the question is, what questions do people ask us? And the nice thing, because I'm now at the moment in our tasting room, and normally we have lots and lots of people coming here and asking us about specific topics. And the other thing is, of course, you've got Facebook, and sometimes you've got someone asking questions through direct chat, direct message, or maybe even via email. And these are all information where I think, okay, you can write that down in a frequently asked question page on your website, or as a vintage report, for example. But why not enhance that with a video? So people actually see your work, how you're working, how you're sorting grapes, how you're sorting berries, how the frost affected the vintage in this year, or how hail damage looks like, and what to do. And those are aspects, just from my point of view, is just showing the real social media part of my little world, my little bubble of work I have in the winery, and exporting that sort of merely live outside, and not doing it with just normal Instagram upfront videos, but also narrating a bit and having it all stuck together in a nice little video just for people to look at.
And Brandon, what have you been doing lately? What kind of videos are you doing?
Yeah, so a lot of what we do, I think I mentioned this in our conversation earlier. We're doing a lot of branded story videos. We've got some wine release videos as well coming up. But with regards to what types of videos, I think wineries ask those types of questions. What video is going to get me the most engagement or views or anything like that? Like I said before, a lot of the things that we look for is, like Patrick said, what questions is your audience asking? What type of information are they looking for? And then from there, that's where you start to create a video based on what those needs are. Because there's a lot of people who say, hey, I need to get drone footage. We hear this probably every phone call. Do you guys have drones? We need aerial footage of the vineyards and our beautiful building, right? But a lot of times we like to slow down the conversation, say, what is your audience today asking for? You know, what age group are they in? You know, what type of information are they looking for? Do they even know what it means to, what harvest even looks like? Or are they wanting to see a certain type of benefit or lifestyle associated with your wine? So that all plays into the type of video you create to make sure that it actually gets engagement and actually moves the needle, depending on, you know, what kind of campaign you're even running. Are you trying to sell more wine? Are you trying to attract new members? All of those things go into, you know, what type of video you should create in the end.
And what about this technology? I mean, maybe Brandon, you can do you do drone shoots? Do you, you know,
Yeah,
do you experiment with 3D? What kind of technology do you use?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So obviously we have drones. It depends on obviously the shoot and what type of caliber drone we will be using. Whether we have to get a drone operator specifically for a certain type of drone we will be using. But yeah, with regards to the technology, I wish my partner Dominic was here. He's definitely the more technological on what type of gear we need to use. He might even be watching this and smiling right now. But yeah, it really depends on the shoot and what types of shots we will be creating. And like I said, it all kind of comes back to tying into what story are we telling and how best are we going to take shots to support that story. But with regards to technology, I'll leave that to Dominic. Maybe he could pop on and answer a little follow-up for you guys.
Sure. And Patrick, what are you using? I mean, do you use your iPhone or your smartphone? Do you use a still camera? Are you using a 3D camera? What kind of things are you experimenting with?
Well, I mean, I've been doing videos now for about 20 years, meanwhile, over 20 years. Also vineyard videos in the beginning with DV cassettes, and then the editing was a bit of a pain in those days with the PC and so on. And then eventually moved on to a normal DV cam with a hard disk. And now, of course, doing it with a normal Canon DSLR camera. And but the issues are, you know, when you start moving away from a normal video like a handy cam or something like that to a DSLR, you get so many more new problems because these are originally made for making photos. So the nice thing, you know, you can do these beautiful shots with, you know, where you have the focus point at the tip of your nose and then going backwards and stuff like that. And you can make wonderful beauty shots, but it's so hard actually then operating the camera so it really works, and also the shaking and stuff like that. And for me in the beginning, also getting the autofocus, there was no autofocus, so everything was manual, and once you were in focus, and it was just a nightmare. And I must admit now, I also tried to use smartphone, but you know, it used to be not as nice, and you know, the wobbly, and the professionals always say have a heavy camera because it's heavy, you won't wobble that much. And you know, it's just like shaky. And you don't have that if you've got a tripod or if you've got a heavy camera. But to be quite honest, I've recently bought myself a Google Pixel 3a because Matusz, you know, your Matusz, told me you should check out the new 4. But then I found out the 4, no, because the battery life and it was really bad. So I picked the 3a, and then it was a bit funny because, you know, normal picture was sort of that frame, and then if you swap to video, the frame is much smaller. And I said, why is that? And I was skiing actually, and then I was following my son who was doing jumps and so on. And later on, I saw the footage. I said, where's the wobbling? I mean, if you ski normally, everything's shaky. But with this mobile phone, everything was so smooth. And then I said, this is amazing. And the other thing is, of course, because these modern smartphones, they also have the issue. If you look at the picture here, for example, here everything is white, over dark, and that's really dark. And you know, the exposure with HDR automatically done with these smartphones. I mean, everything is flat, of course. You don't have these nice bouquet and the oculicious things there, but everything is sharp. Your face is sharp. You're in focus. and the colors are just beautiful out of the box. And I just recently made a video, you know, I recorded with smartphone and with the DSLR. Oh my, the colors from the smartphone were so vivid and so nice that I didn't have to do any after editing anymore. And with the DSLR, oh, it had too much green, it was too dull, and then you have to pump up the colors to make a lively, beautiful video again. And so it's difficult. And the third video I also bought myself, it was 2 years ago, yeah, 18. I got to know about these 360 degrees cameras. So it's not 3D, it's 360 degrees. And you stick it on the end of a long stick, and then you wander around and sort of do drone-like shots in post afterwards. So you know, you can imagine, let's say here, this is a grape bunch, and then you drive, I'll just use a mouse here, you drive with your camera under the bunch and you drive away. And at the same time, the person is picking the grape. You won't be able to do that for a drone, but you make drone-esque footage that way. And just with a 360 degree camera, it's just magnificent. But oh, it's a nightmare afterwards, editing the videos and choosing the scene and stuff like that. So.
And Brandon, Lisa Marie's asking also with the kind of types of videos, she's wondering about how long should a video be? So she's saying, should it be less than 5 minutes? How long should it be? Do you guys have a kind of rule of thumb that you go by? What do you like to do? Does it, you know, depend on the circumstances? What do you think? That's
a really good question. And we get that a lot. I think it just depends. So we've done, I think the video needs to be as long as it needs to be, even though that's not really an answer that she might be looking for. Typically, there's a lot of statistics with video. You always want to try to keep it below 90 seconds for just attention span. The most videos that are watched are below that. But if you're doing something like a virtual tasting webinar or something, you know, Patrick does that, or if you're trying to describe something about a number of different ones that people actually care about and they have a lot of questions about, and there's information in the video that they'll continue watching to kind of receive that information, then I think it's definitely worthwhile making the videos longer. However, you know, for our branded stories and all that, we try to keep them anywhere from 40 to 90 seconds, just so that we can really capture people's attention. And it's just statistically, you know, we've seen that that's pretty much the sweet spot of where you want to keep those videos.
And what about the social channels you're talking, you know, what are you mostly posting on? What, like, or do you have any thoughts about, oh, is Instagram much better now, or Facebook or whatever?
Mm-hmm. And sorry to kind of keep kind of beating this in, but it really depends on the audience. A lot of the wineries we've worked with, a large majority of their audience is on Instagram. So a lot of those videos are there. So a lot of branded stories we'll cut down into shorter kind of social media cuts. We even just did a webinar with Amber over at Spit Bucket. She's kind of like a wine blogger and influencer, and we're taking an entire half-hour webinar that we've done with her, and we'll be condensing those into short little snippets to release for people who have specific questions about something that we might have talked about at, you know, 20 minutes, but there's no way that someone's going to maybe care about some of the questions we talked about the first 15. But we're doing a lot of that in social media and Instagram. That's where we've seen a lot of, you know, winery consumers there.
And Patrick, I knew a few years ago, Germany was quite, for wineries, Facebook was sort of the king. Is that the case anymore? Are your customers mostly on Facebook, or are they shifted to Instagram? Where are you finding them?
Unfortunately, you're asking this question a tad too early. And the interesting thing is, actually, if you do a Facebook ad and at the same time you promote your video or your picture or whatever you're promoting, at the same time for Instagram to a target audience in a region. And I just did one for the region of Wellington in New Zealand. And you won't believe it, 96% were sent to mobile Facebook and only 2% to Instagram. So in that region, I would say Instagram is just hardly existent. And Facebook, that's where the people are. And I can't tell you this for Germany yet, because I actually need to do a promoted post first, where I can then sort of look after 3 days, okay, who watched it? Where is my target audience? And that's a nice thing about Facebook, because you can target on wine, on gourmet food, or whatsoever, and the age of the people. And I must admit, I only addressed people older than 25 years. And maybe because I don't have the access to the very young people, and I don't know what they like to have in wine and so on. So I'd rather get the audience which is a bit wiser and maybe knowledgeable of wine and so on. And those are the ones I want to target. So in this case, and I was absolutely thrilled, I must admit, that over 20% were the 65 plus. So for me, that was totally amazing that these silver surfers, they're on Facebook and they're watching you and they're interacting with you, and that's, wow, it's just amazing.
And Brandon, are you, the wineries you're working for, are they talking about silver surfers, or are they talking about 20-year-olds?
So there's a lot of wineries, the larger wineries obviously have a larger age group. The wineries we're specifically working with on Wednesday that I told you in St. Helena, a lot of them have a lot of the kind of the older generation, but they have, it's very interesting because they have a very, their brand is kind of like, you know, it's not the quote unquote kind of like snobbish type of brand. It's very like approachable. It's very kind of like, it's like an authentic, very like, it's kind of interesting to describe. It's not the beautiful, large cobblestone road pathway into the winery, but they do kind of go after the target audience who has like a discerning taste. So they typically are older. However, they're not kind of the, you know, traditional audience member, which is why a lot of their users are actually on Instagram. But I could totally see how Patrick is seeing a lot of engagement from those 65 and older on Facebook, just with regards to the two different platforms and how they consume information.
Great. Well, thanks everybody for attending. This is a Bottlebooks webinar series. This video is about, this webinar is about videos for wineries. I'd like to, I have Patrick here from Weingut Karl H, and I have Brandon here from the Pour marketing agency. And we're just answering questions and talking about strategies and ways to make videos for wineries. If you have any questions, you can always scroll down your mouse on the bottom and click on the Q&A section and just type in a question. And I'll share the video of this afterwards, and also links to Pour, so you can reach Brandon and Patrick, who's actually hosting an online tasting after this. And so you can, I don't know, Patrick, can people still join? Is it a closed tasting or is it an open tasting, or do you need to have the wine in your hand? How is your tasting going to work?
Well, I'm doing it totally chaotically, and it's just meaning that, you know, I'm doing, of course, unfortunately in German. I need to concentrate on
Yes.
one language, because, you know, reading comments, moderating the computer, setting up everything on my own, it's really difficult, and triggering videos and so on. And so it's in German, and it's just as normal, a Facebook Live event. And because people have no clue how this works and how chaotic this will be, I just say, just join it, have a look, and if you're interested in the wines, order the button, but, you know, and then I'll just keep on continuing doing these live events sort of every second evening for the next fortnight. So I'm just doing a sort of a one-man show a bit. But I have another question to Brandon, just before we go to the other questions. You know, you've got metrics on the videos, of course, and you know, with YouTube, that's a beautiful way to look at the insights and so on. What was actually the most successful video you have ever had? Because the interesting thing, mine was actually pruning vineyards in April. It was an absolute success story. I mean, it's not about selling wine, it's about another topic, just part of the work of how to prune wines, but that was the most successful I've ever done. Yeah.
No, for us, it was actually a branded story video. So they were talking about, this was a farm in Salinas actually, and talking about and showcasing a number of, there's the marketing manager there, the owner, and we also showcased, you know, one of the farmers themselves. And that was actually the most popular with people engaging. And this is something we actually talked with Amber about as well, as, you know, showcasing who is behind the wines. And maybe that's why kind of, you know, showing the printing in April is people kind of want to see that behind the scenes look. Like who are the faces behind this brand? You know, what makes this possible? Like, how can I connect with someone emotionally? So when I'm drinking their wine, you know, who's behind this, and how can I make a connection with them and feel like I'm buying into somebody versus buying into just another, you know, there's millions of labels. There's so many, right? So seeing those behind the scenes and what that looks like to actually, like you said, go through that entire process, and who are they buying into versus, you know, what label are they buying? I think that was probably why it was so catching for people to see.
And can you, for either of you, have you ever been able to measure whether you're actually selling wine with videos, or is it more just a brand positioning and awareness? This is coming from an attendee, a question. So is this, you know, is there any way to have a metric with this where you can say, ah, okay, I sold, you know, some wine from this video or whatever? I don't know, Brandon,
Yeah,
maybe I can ask you. Yeah.
Yeah, so for us, we haven't gone all the way down in terms of seeing, you know, given enough time to say, hey, this is a direct percentage of what this video has created. But there's a ton of, at least just general statistics for how many people purchase after seeing a video versus any other type of content. However, it is hard to say video equals sale.
Have you ever seen this link, Patrick?
This.
Have you ever seen any video equals sale link in?
No, because I've not been focusing on these types of videos, because it's more or less just reacting on what people want to know from me and what might be interesting for them. But I actually never really like to sort of have the bottle of wine, oh, taste the wine and this is what it tastes and so on, and buy now because you get a discount of whatsoever. It might work, I have no idea.
What do you think about that, those types of videos, Brandon?
Yeah, I honestly, like I said, I think the videos that need to be created are the videos that are providing information that people care about. So I think whether you see a direct sale from one video or not, like, hey, this video got 10 clicks afterwards, I think building multiple touch points with your customers and continuing to build your brand and have it be consistent, whether it be across video or social media posts where you're just answering a question, or you're interacting with customers on social media or via email or making new connections. I think all those things help to build your brand. And to even say that one video equals this amount of sales, I think the statistics I've seen is you need at least 6 to 7 touch points before someone's even willing to be interested and want to reach out or you know, consume your wine. So the fact that we're trying to say, oh, one video watch equals this, what you're hoping to do is create a lot of content that people care about and multiple touch points, whether it be in you interacting with them on social media, and then they watch a video, and then they see a picture that you post. Maybe there's 6 or 7 of those before they actually even become a customer.
Great, great. Okay, I'm gonna. There are some questions that are being asked. Maybe Brandon, I would maybe leave some of them for you later. You could follow up through an email or something, because I think some of them can get a little bit technical and they're nice, but maybe we can move on and just talk about what wineries are doing today. Like what Patrick, what are you doing what have you been doing the last couple of months? Everything's in lockdown. Has your video level increased? Are you doing different types of things? What have you been doing?
Well, because I knew that lockdown would be coming, I actually did an email newsletter to all my customers warning them that lockdown will come. And I don't know if, you know, the problem with transport of wine will still be available. So I just gave them 2 days to order, and we're so flushed with so many orders over the next fortnight that I didn't have any time to do any videos and stuff like that. And the other thing is because at the same time in Germany, people were sort of starting to rave about online wine tasting, and so on. And I like this conversation here. I always had dropouts with my internet connection to telecom. and it was now repaired last week, and since then everything is so fine, so now I can actually do these live video things. So recording videos and doing something is, you need to have stock footage to be able to deliver, so it takes a year, I guess, or two to build up that database, your portfolio of videos, which then you can show later on in sort of a live video, stuff like that. I just want to quickly, I saw this question about the music with video.
Oh yeah, I was. Yeah.
Now what I do is, when talking, I don't want to be annoyed about video, and I always hate it when you have the traffic thing and the radio running and you're trying to concentrate because you're driving the car that's loud, you're concentrating, where's the traffic jam, at the same time they're playing a jingle in the background, and I ask myself, why do they have to do that? It's annoying. It's taking your mind away from the words you're trying to speak. And I always do some sort of B footage, or like Zeitraffer. I forgot the word for that. Sort of fast forward videos, and that's why you need music to sort of lively up and do a bit more. So it's a nice mix between B footage, nice romantic shots, and then also your message, but your message only with very, very low volume music, if any, because that is the worst thing to have, is some distracting audio at the same time as you're speaking. And one of the worst things is actually wind noise, and that is just awful, really awful.
Well, I guess, Brandon, that's why some people will hire professionals to find this balance and record the sound correctly and all of that. When I guess, well, first of all, the lockdown, is there more interest in video? Are people asking for different things? And then how are they engaging? If you get to the point where you think, oh God, it's not working, doing it on my phone, whatever, or I need something bigger or different or whatever, how do they, how are the best way to engage a video production company?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So a lot of our interest is actually from one of them is referral. We have probably doing, I forgot the number of how many sites he's doing to get all these wineries up and running as a result of the tasting rooms being closed. But with our referrals, they're typically wanting to see video because since the space is closed, how can they continue to bring that experience to people for them to see? Because tasting rooms are such a big attraction, right? A lot of sales happen there too. How can they continue to make up for that with the shutdown? So they're wanting to show people a glimpse of the tasting room. And like I said before, in addition to showing tasting rooms and aerial footage of the, the vineyards and of the building, we like to ask them, what types of things are your customers asking you when they come to the tasting room? How can we bring this experience and not just showing them what things look like, but how can we interact with them through video and telling a story, right? That matters. And even with virtual tasting rooms, you guys have probably seen that. You're doing one yourself, Patrick. One of the things we're wanting to kind of suggest to one of our wineries who wanted to do, 12 different wine release product videos is, let's take a day to invest our time into that. Let's have it pre-recorded. Let's have it polished. Let's make sure, we have probably 4 to 5 people on site to make that production happen, but they only have to do that once, and then they can use that content for the next 6 months. And they could still host it using technology, doing a live webinar style, to where they don't have to reset up, they don't have to retaste, they don't have to re-pour and say the same thing they said a few nights before, but they can have something that's polished and pre-recorded, yet still set it up as a live webinar and interact with people and have them ask questions about what it is that they did. So they have a polished video, they don't have to worry about sound and troubleshooting, and then they can be there live with them, answering questions. And if they could have 10 people in the webinar, or they could have 50, and they can chat and answer questions similar to what we're doing here. And then at the end, we're suggesting that they go live on something like Zoom now that they have seen the video and seen some of the tasting notes, seen what's gone into the process, who is behind this wine. Now you can ask them questions and we can get interactive and start to build connections with each other.
And how do you what's the best way for a winery to approach you? Obviously we'll share your contact information and everything like that. And they can go to your website, which is at pouragency.com. So is it good that they come prepared with a whole spec? Is it good that they come completely unprepared? Is it good that they have a goal for the video? What's the best kind of way so that they're not spending extra money, they're getting the most value out of you and your team for the videos?
Great question. Yeah, so for us, come as you already are. If you have ideas about video, it's our job to not just suggest, a certain type of video because it's a service we offer. We want to know where you're at, what's worked in the past, what are your goals, what are your marketing goals? And then it's our job as an agency to actually diagnose what it is that you're having a problem with, whether it be sales in a specific area, or if you're wanting to, tell your story in this way, we'll ask you as many questions as we need to actually suggest a type of video that we think will make the biggest impact. So we don't have any type of, you need to be this prepared or this prepared. It's, what do you have so far? What's worked, what hasn't? And we'll ask you questions to determine what will actually be, what we would recommend being the best type of video to help you actually achieve your goals.
And Patrick, how do you balance full-time harvest, all of this stuff, and doing videos? Have you ever used an agency, thought about using anybody to help you?
Well, the main problem is, it's all about looking and finding new information, new aspects, something interesting, which is absolutely new. And because just doing the same thing as everyone else has done, a nice drone footage and so on, and everyone driving on the tractor, this is romantic, this is nice, everyone wants to be a winemaker. But I'm in a situation, I'd like to warn these people, don't buy a winery and become a winemaker, because it's such a hell of a work to do. And if you want to sort of lose millions of dollars, buy a winery. And it's so hard actually to achieve this. So these are moments where I see something, grab the camera, okay, got in the car, quickly set up a tripod or now with the smartphone, and that's how I grab these shots. Or I have an idea, okay, I need to do a newsletter, or I need to have a quick story to tell the people, and it's sort of more ad hoc, and I wouldn't have the time for preparation and so on. And to be quite honest, we've had so many film teams here in the past, for TV shows and wine show here, wine show there. The first time I was in TV, that was in a cook show. It was over 20 years ago. So I was always interested behind the technique, and that's why. So I'm a really sort of a geeky guy, and that's why they set up, with the monitor and sort of the background, all prepared for this webinar here. And it's just because you get a picture of it, how something looks quite nice, and how you arrange things. It's just like a photography vision of it. And I must admit, if I look at my old videos, it's so bad, and the music is sometimes so, oh my God, why did I do that? But on the other hand, it sort of shows sort of a personal attitude, which is sort of not perfect, of course, but it's sort of the way sort of, you're dealing with a real person, and it's not sort of the over-polished, shiny world here. It's just hands-on, and it's work, and it's not perfect, but it tastes good.
And Brendan, you mentioned this a few times. Is that the greatest advantage of video, is to sort of connect with the real person, as Patrick said?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, not only connecting with the real person, but just the way that we consume video today, right? With YouTube being, right behind Google, in terms of searches and finding content. It's, people have short attention spans. They need something that's interesting, and video is a way to pretty much, like Patrick said, be able to share that and people be able to see it without either reading about it or just seeing a photo. So it's just a different medium that we've seen just be extremely effective in sharing that type of information.
Great. Okay. Well, I think that was a great conversation. There's a few questions, one that I can answer, and then maybe Brandon will answer a few in the email, and I'll send those in an email later, including Brandon's contact at pouragency.com and some more details about Brandon and the team there. And Patrick, you can always check out his videos. He has a Facebook, a great Facebook pages, and you can buy his wine. You can watch his webinar in German. Can anybody get, if they speak German, can they join your webinar, or can they sign up at all, Patrick?
Yes. I mean, it's just public to everyone, and it's just Facebook fan page, Karl H. Weingut Karl H. And maybe if you want to leave a link, then later on, I don't know, and then they can see how I've set it up here and how it's going, and the background and so on. But like I said, I'm doing it totally chaotic, totally sort of impromptu, and just keep on talking. It's not the thing most of the others are doing for a Zoom conversation like here now, where I've got people at home and then saying, yeah, cheers. And that's the way I'm trying to do a different style. So if you've seen the webinar from last week, I'm doing all the mistakes that Fabian's saying, don't do them, I'll do it, yes.
Great. So, and a couple of things about Bottlebooks. We have an open trade directory where you can post information about your wineries, a lot of information, including videos. So you can post videos there, which is a great way to promote your brand and your wines. So you can add wines. And we are releasing soon a new portfolio. We did a webinar on it last week, and we have a few people who are beta testing it now and testing the portfolio to get early feedback. If you're interested in that, you can always let us know. Again, we'll send you the link, and we can do that. I know Ignacio asked for some of the links in the chat, so I'll make sure that he gets information about that. Okay, thank you all for this webinar. Thanks for answering questions, Brandon, Patrick. I thought that was a pretty interesting conversation. We also want to hear from you guys if you have any other topics you want to discuss, or if you want more information about videos in the future. Thanks again for joining, and you can sign up next week for the next webinar, which is retailers required. What type of information are retailers asking for, and why? Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.